Hello, everybody. It's Hyrule Valbrine again. I just recently finished up with the Half-Life Chronicles Book 2, which was Salt on the Seas, and so I snuck in the short story that came with that, The Light That Leads. I'm going to be vague for two reasons. One, because I typically don't want to spoil a story, but more specifically because this short story is about Veldin. And anything I spoil here is going to spoil a reveal in Salt in the Seas. If you have read any of the short stories that Karyne Norton has written in regards to Half-Life Chronicles, you'll know that each of those short stories tends to center around a specific character and adds more depth to that character, more lore, if you will. It enriches their backstory and helps develop them as a character. The original short story is a prequel, which is mostly on Garen and how he meets Eliana. And that is The Light That Takes. The Light That Saves is in the first book, The Blood of the Stars. Aura is telling a story about the pirate Redwood, and that story is the story we read in detail in The Light That Saves. So this particular one ties to something that gets revealed about Veldin late in Salt in the Seas, and it goes back and gives more detail on that than just the basic reveal we get. This is roughly 113 pages, couple hour read. If you do enjoy the Half-Life Chronicles, you will enjoy this. That is one thing I'm loving about these short stories is, as I said, they're adding depth to the character, because this is about Veldin. As we get those reveals in Book 2, now we can go more in depth with those reveals. And again, I know I'm being very vague, but that's because I don't want to ruin the surprise or spoil bits of the story. The only spoiler I will give you, because, well, you're going to expect it if you read the book, is by the end of this short story, he will meet up with Zilmar, which, yeah, I'm sure you will be completely surprised that a story about Veldin will explain how he ends up with the Recreants. As far as stories go, you could theoretically read this on your own or on its own without reading any of the main books, and it's an entertaining story. I'm going to give it a 3.5, not because there's anything wrong with it, but just because I think it is better as an add-on story than it would be as a solo story, but it is still a good solo story. As I said, I like it specifically because it adds more depth to Veldin as a character. And anything that adds depth, adds lore, adds information, great world building like that is always a bonus for me. It is not required reading. It's just a fun little short story to take up a little time if you want to add more depth and more and expand the world itself. So that's my take on that. I do apologize for the vagueness, but I'm going to do that with these short stories in general, just so I don't spoil the specifics. I'm sure with Book 3 on the horizon, Curse of the Moon, there will end up being a short story or two to go with that, to add more depth to characters from that. But next on the docket is Unnatural Acts, which is Book 2 of the Dan Chamble series. And I've got Book 3 waiting in the wings, along with a few other Kickstarter books you've probably watched me unbox if you've been watching my videos. So with that, I leave you with, as always, happy reading.